Hey, welcome. So, this is one of my still first Facebook Live videos. I'm still feeling the nervousness in my body. I'm feeling excited. This topic that I'm sharing with you today is so very alive for me, and I imagine it's a topic that's alive for anybody who watches this. I mean, man, I don't know about your 2020, but I gotta say, between the pandemic and George Floyd and the massive global protests and the riots and we're in the United States here. That's where I am from, Bay Area, California. We have an election coming up, and it's a very serious one. We've got things like climate change, we've got climate deniers, we have people who think that wearing masks and social distancing is inappropriate given what's going on. We have others who say, oh my goodness, like if you're not wearing a mask and social distancing, you're basically threatening the lives of thousands, if not millions of people. We've got people who think you should defund the police. We have others who think you need to keep the police but reform them. I mean, the number of polarizing topics are honestly more than I can list off right now. Um, yeah, I mean, in the comments thread, if you'd like to engage with me by sharing with me some of the polarizing topics that have been hard for you, that would be wonderful. That would be material so that I can really speak to you directly. So, just a little bit about myself. I think what's important to know is I'm a mother, and I think being a mother really makes you care about the world in a deeper way, because it's not just about my lifetime. My son is now 22 years old. He's doing really well. And I can't tell you how many times I've looked into the future and I'm like, wow, what kind of world are we passing along? So I've been very active in the ways that I can while managing my life. And I imagine that's true of people who are watching this as well. And some of the areas that I've been drawn to, I know everybody has their gifts, their talents, the areas of interest that they're drawn to. What has drawn me, a number of things, but one of the core are the principles of nonviolent communication, also known as compassionate communication. These were created by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who is a PhD psychologist. He earned his PhD at the University of Madison, which happens to be where I was born and raised, so I think that's pretty cool. And so I think 1967, 68, around that time is when he earned his PhD. And after accomplishing his PhD in psychology, thinking that that might help him, like if I can understand the psyche of human beings, then I can help them to figure out how to be peaceful. And what he came to discover is that no, understanding the psychology of human beings in the way psychology has been taught, and I will say it is absolutely changing, but in the way it had been taught at the time, what he learned was how to be professional at diagnosing, evaluating, and labeling his patients. He makes a joke about how, he'd be in the car and, driving, and sometimes there's just people on the road. You're like, oh my God, like, do you really need to drive like that? So he used to say things like, you jerk, you need to drive better. But he jokes around about how after he became a PhD in psychologist, he would call you psychopath, right? It's just kind of fancier labels, but still there's a level of make wrong that happens in that. So with his PhD in hand, he was like, I haven't accomplished what I came here to do. I really want to contribute to the more beautiful world I know is possible. This world where we can be collaborative, be cooperative, live in harmony, and live in peace. And fortunately, he came upon the work of Carl Rogers. And what Carl Rogers brought into the conversation is an understanding that everything we do, absolutely everything we do, is driven by the desire to meet a precious need. Now, when we think about needs, generally in the English language, we're thinking about, I need to go to work, I need to have breakfast, I need chocolate, of course, chocolate, right? If you're from England, then you might have a need for tea, right? But that's not the kind of needs that we're talking about here. The needs we're talking about, and I actually have them listed here, the needs we're talking about are the really universal needs. So needs for, you can see autonomy, choice, to matter, to be seen, to be heard, belonging, this whole list of needs. And everything I show you is going to be available on my website, which is listed, but it's www.lovesmartcards.com, and you can download these tools for free. And they're super helpful in this quest to embody the kind of compassion that the world needs right now. Compassion is the healing medicine for a world that is growing into deeper and deeper divides, as if we didn't have enough 4 years ago. Look at us now. So compassion allows us to ask this very important question that Dr. Marshall Rosenberg discovered from his mentor, Carl Rogers, which is, what is the need driving this action? What is the need driving this belief system? What is the need driving this argument, this fight? So I definitely, if there's nothing else you do, I invite you to download this sheet of universal needs and start studying it. And every time you do something, you're like, what was behind that? What was driving me? Look at the needs sheet. See what comes up for you. You can also, when something comes up in another person, you're like, I can't believe what they're doing. This is just driving me crazy. They should stop. They should change, right? Anytime you feel that kind of, it's really a judgment to say they should stop, they should change, or whatever else we might say about them in that moment. We can sometimes get very colorful in our language, and that can be really hurtful, especially when we find ourselves reacting to someone that we deeply love. So use this sheet. Another thing you can do if you want to go deeper in your investment is purchase a set of Love Smart cards. The universal needs are these green cards here. And so when you use these cards in processes that you can learn about the processes in some YouTube videos I have, and different worksheets, or in our workshops. When you use those cards, not only does it become easy to identify what needs are driving any action, but at the same time, you're building your vocabulary. So if right now you're like, I have no idea what needs are, I don't know what's driving me, like it's just kind of a foreign language to you, these cards are what will build that language, so to speak, so that you have easy access. And you can start noticing like, something's off. I don't feel right. I feel upset. I feel sad. I feel concerned. I feel frightened. As soon as you have some kind of uncomfortable feeling, or you notice you're acting in a way that doesn't feel in alignment with your values, it's a signal that you're trying to meet some kind of a need. And so it's so important to take time to identify, what is that need you're trying to meet? What is that need you're trying to meet? When you can identify what that need is, then you can start to bring conscious strategies forward to actually meet that need. So one of the places that this example becomes really important is when, any kind of fight. Kind of look at a typical fight. I say something, the other person says something, I don't agree, so I say my argument more. They don't agree, so they double down on theirs, right? And it goes back and forth, and it escalates and escalates until you're like pulling your hair out and you're like, I need to get out of here, And this feeling of connection, this feeling of love, this feeling of like, oh my goodness, this is a person I just cherish, can disappear so quickly when we go into those experiences. So the first thing to do when that happens is take a breath. When we go into these places where we're arguing, where we're fighting about viewpoints, very literally, our need for safety, to be seen, to be heard, to be understood, For shared reality, these are all universal needs. Those needs are not met when we have these kinds of escalating conflicts. And so when we don't feel safe, what happens, unfortunately, well, fortunately and unfortunately, it's a survival response. When we don't feel safe, our frontal lobes shut down and we're working just from the reptilian part of our brain. It's the survival part. It's the part that, like, if there's a lion coming, you don't have to think. You run, right? You do whatever you can to survive. Fight, flight, or freeze. So I might run. Somebody else might choose to fight. Some person might, those are the options. That's the reptilian brain response. And that's what has kept us alive through the evolution of humanity. But it really becomes a problem when we are in conflict with each other, and then our frontal lobes shut down and we're just fight, flight, freeze. Because how effective is fight, flight, freeze when you are talking politics or religion or climate with somebody who doesn't agree with you? We basically lose our rational mind. And the chances of losing connection in that situation become very high. So one of the quickest ways to calm down that response and to come back into our full brain is to connect with our breath. And a technique you might use, this is scientifically shown to stimulate the vagus nerve, which helps us go from sympathetic back to a parasympathetic response, is to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 6 seconds, hold for 6 seconds. And keep doing that cycle until you can feel the calm settle into your body. Now you might notice when you're worked up, this is really hard to do. It's really hard because when you get stimulated, when you feel like you're not safe, your adrenaline kicks in, your heart rate goes up, your breathing gets shallow and quick. That's part of, like, I might need to run or fight, or, right, I need to be alert to the danger that's out there. It's just our biology. And so if at first this, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 6 seconds out, 6 seconds hold, if that's like, you just can't do it. Your lungs are not, just hold it as long as you can and comfortably enough. And you'll see your body will calm down and it'll be easier to do that. And then once you've been able to do that breath pattern for maybe 5 to 10 cycles, it helps to relax your body. It helps you to be able to access your rational mind to go, what's important here? To be right or to be connected? Such an important question, especially when we're talking with our beloved ones, our friends, our family, our partner. How many people right now are in conflict with their partner in a shelter-in-place scenario? It's so hard. So your breath is a very important first step to get you settled. There have been many studies also that show you that it's not only recognizing what are your underlying needs, but also what are your emotions. And in nonviolent communication, it's really well understood that these two are very closely connected. When our needs are well met, then we feel all kinds of wonderful, pleasant, comfortable emotions. We feel happy, satisfied, content, elated, right? This category of emotions. And again, if we look in the box, that would be the blue cards here. So these ones are emotions connected to fulfilled needs. And there's 52 in this set. And when your needs are not well met, you're going to be uncomfortable, right? You might feel anxious. You might feel hatred. That's a pretty intense one, but sometimes that comes up. You might feel heavy-hearted, right? Discouraged. So again, another 52 cards that can identify your emotions. This is a pared down list from a more comprehensive list, of course, that you can get on the website. But goodness, if you've got 52 emotions, of both the comfortable and the uncomfortable, 104 in total, that's going to get you a long way. The rest of it will be easy once you've got that established. And so, again, science has shown that when we can identify what our emotions are and what our needs are, that's another thing that helps us to calm our nervous system. That in nonviolent communication is called self-empathy. And it's a very core practice that we do all the time. It's about as foundational as it gets. The one that goes hand in hand with that is having empathy for the other person. So in that circumstance, what we want to do is imagine, like, what would it be like right now to be in their shoes? And I have to say, it's really helpful to do your self-empathy first, like fill your own well. And when you're feeling like you're resourced, so much easier to start to imagine, using those frontal lobes again, or the whole brain, much easier to imagine what it might be like to walk in the other person's shoes, so to speak, to experience that argument or whatever happenstance it was, to be able to understand that through the other person's point of view. So the same thing, you just imagine you're that person, and again, identify, if I were that person, what might I be feeling right now? What might I be needing? And the cards really help you to be able to do that in an effective way, where you're able to, it's kind of like a game. If you're in an argument, you're kind of attached to, I need you to see it my way. But if you make it a game, like, can I understand how you're feeling and what you're needing right now? It's so much easier for us to take our own stuff and just put it aside temporarily. Just temporarily. It's easy to pick it back up, right? But it's a big skill to put it aside long enough and committed enough that we can really get into the world of another person to understand their feelings and needs. Then there's this wisdom piece that my son found a while ago, and I just love it, right? Conflict is me versus you. And where we want to go is us versus the problem, right? So we are in cooperation, we are in collaboration, we are in co-creation, and we've sought to understand each other deeply enough with compassionate understanding that gives us access to being able to see the situation together and look to see how we address it. Right? There's also the saying, 2 minds are better than one. And oh my goodness, that is so true when it comes to conflict. Without compassionate understanding, it's so hard to find a solution that will work for everyone. But with compassionate understanding, anything is possible. There is a win-win in every situation. The challenge is having the tools and the time to get there. So with that, I wanted to offer you some tools. Again, you've seen the universal needs list. You've seen the cards. Another one that I have, this is something I put together early on when shelter in place happened. It is a 10-page guide, quick start guide to conflict resolution. You can, go to the website, and of course, if you purchase the cards, I'll send it to you. Go ahead and download it. Feel free to share it. But what's in here is, we've got, first of all, this is just a 1-page guide. Just helps you reflect on how you're showing up in the world. There's a bunch of teachings in there, but I'm going to leave it short for now. And there's a bit about conflict, right? And some keys to handling conflict. There's a little bit on kind of a very basic intro to what nonviolent communication is. There's a communication flow chart. This is really easy if you're looking at kind of step by step where you're at in a dialogue and what's the next step. This is the challenging situation worksheet. This was created by my dear friend Scott Katamas. And the 7 adjustments, also a tool that he had initially come up with, and we've done a lot of work together. So I did some graphic design for that one and added some questions. Sample connection requests. This is very helpful But again, you really want to understand each other before you come to strategies, before you say, this is what we should do. It's so important to understand each other. So usually your first request is going to be something along the lines of, would you let me know what you just heard? Or, how did that land for you? Or something that is, it's a request to see if we are on the same page, if we have a shared reality, shared enough that we can look at how to move forward in a way that really honors the heart. Then there's more about making requests. Requests is a whole art form to learn, so we do a workshop on that. That's an introduction, but we could go a whole lot deeper. We have also got stress, just some self-care strategies. There's so much going on right now. It's so important to take time to take care of yourself. And one other that did not print up in here, but I have it here. This is also included in that conflict resolution quick start guide. This is a one-page tool. I often tell people, this is the laminated form. I often tell people I recommend that they put it on their refrigerator, pull down in case of emergency, pull the tool out. This is a great one-page travel-sized tool. Another wonderful thing to do is to get 2 sets of cards, and then if you do that, and there's a quick start guide in the front, so it'll kind of guide you through the basics of how to use the cards. So you can use those processes, and both of you do a process, and you lay out your cards to answer the questions to the process. And then you do a show and tell, and it's remarkable how connecting that can be. Oh my goodness. When I first created these cards and I started to use it, I was like, wow, you can save so much money on like couples counseling, because you can actually resolve at least 90% of what's going on simply by taking the time to really understand yourself and each other. And so that's what the cards help you to do. So I hope this has been helpful to all of you. I would love any comments. Oh, another thing. I do offer free consultation sessions. They're about a half hour in length. And just so you know what that is, it's an opportunity for you to receive this kind of empathy that I'm talking about. Whatever's on your mind, whatever's on your heart, whatever it is that you need to be heard, seen, and understood for, cared for, to know that you matter. It's your opportunity to really receive that. So that's my gift. And then, of course, if you like my work and you'd like to, work with me more, then we can talk about that. Or if you have questions about other resources, we can talk about that. But it's a half hour of dedicated time that's really a gift to you. So again, if that interests you, please go to the website, www.lovesmartcards.com. And you can go to my webpage. You could also check out Linda Switzer. She's my business partner in Canada. Makiko Amai is my business partner in Japan. Of course, her time zone creates challenges if you are in the Western world. But if you have friends who speak Japanese, she's a good person to go to. Should you have a friend or loved one who speaks another language, I can certainly also set you up for that. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time.